Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to HK Cheating Stories. We appreciate each and every one of you joining us. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's get the story started. I never thought my life would turn into a battlefield. My name is Carter Jacobs, and for years, I believed in love, loyalty, and the vows I made. I built a life, a home, a future with the woman I adored. But in a single night, it all came crashing down. A dinner reservation, a simple text, and then divorce papers, a restraining order, and accusations of a crime I didn't commit. Betrayed, framed, hunted, but they underestimated me. Because when you push a man like me to the edge, he doesn't fall. He fights back. I never thought betrayal would wear a familiar face. It crept in slowly, hidden beneath soft whispers and the warmth of a woman's touch. A woman I had once sworn my life to. A woman who, in return, vowed to love me until the end of time. But vows are nothing more than words, fragile, hollow, and easily broken. I sat in my office, the dim glow of my desk lamp casting long shadows across the room. The clock on my monitor read 5:47 p.m., later than I planned to stay, but I had no choice. The monthly reports had come in at the last possible second, as they always did, forcing me to work late once again. I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose as I stared at the stack of spreadsheets cluttering my inbox. Every damn month, the same thing. I had warned my managers 100 times not to send their reports last minute, but they never listened. With a resigned breath, I reached for my phone and dialed my wife. She picked up on the third ring. "Mike, are you feeling the end-of-month blues again?" There was something off about her tone. It wasn't her usual playful sarcasm. It was something colder, detached. "Yeah, same old story," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Some of these guys think miracles happen at the last second. Looks like I'll be stuck here until at least 6:30. "Not an issue," she said. "I expected it to happen anyway." "That was strange." "You expected it?" I asked, frowning. "Of course," Lena said smoothly. "It's the same thing every month, isn't it?" I exhaled. She wasn't wrong, but still something didn't sit right with me. "Listen," she continued, "I figured you'd need a break, so I made a reservation for us. Luigi's. 7 o'clock. Just you and me. Luigi's. A small, intimate Italian place we had been going to since the beginning of our relationship. It was where we celebrated good news, important anniversaries. Hell, it was where I had proposed to her 5 years ago. Hearing her suggest it should have warmed my heart, but instead, I felt uneasy. "That's really thoughtful, Lena," I said, forcing a smile. 7 sounds perfect. "Good. 7-ish then." "All right, love you." Silence. A full 2 seconds passed before she muttered a distracted, "Yeah, see you there." Then the line went dead. I lowered the phone, staring at it as a cold sensation crept down my spine. Something was wrong. Lena had always been affectionate, always ended our calls with "I love you," always threw in a playful tease. But tonight, nothing. Just a dismissive sigh and a hurried goodbye. For the first time in years, I felt a crack in the foundation of our marriage. I shook it off. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe she was just distracted at work. Maybe her boss, Wilson Langley, was nearby, listening in. That man had a habit of lurking over her shoulder. Pushing the thought aside, I finished my report, packed up my things, and grabbed my coat. At 6:32 p.m., I stepped out of the office and into the crisp night air, the city skyline glowing in the distance. As I walked toward my car, I made a decision. I would stop at a flower shop on the way to the restaurant. Maybe that would brighten Lena's mood. Maybe that would bring back the woman I had fallen in love with. I didn't know then, but this would be the last time I ever bought her flowers. The scent of fresh roses filled the car as I pulled into Luigi's parking lot at 6:55 p.m. I had taken a detour to pick up a bouquet, Lena's favorite. Deep red petals, delicate yet powerful, a symbol of passion and devotion. A symbol of us, or at least what we used to be. I stepped out, adjusting my coat against the cool night air. The glow of the restaurant's neon sign cast a warm reflection on the wet pavement, and for a brief moment, I let myself believe that tonight would be fine. That whatever strange tension had seeped into Lena's voice earlier was nothing more than stress from work. I reached into my pocket and sent her a quick text. Hey, just got here. I waited. The screen remained blank. Then, hey, just one word. No heart emoji. No, I'm on my way. Nothing. I frowned. Lena had always been expressive over text. Always threw in a kiss emoji or a playful jab. But this was colder than before. Something was wrong. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked inside. The hostess at the front greeted me with a smile that widened when she saw the flowers in my hand. Reservation for Carter, I said. She scanned the list, then nodded. Right this way, sir. I followed her through the softly lit restaurant, past the tables of laughing couples and clinking glasses, to a booth along the back wall. Our usual spot. I sat down, placed the bouquet on the seat beside me, and took a slow sip of water. And then I waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. At 7:15, I checked my phone again. No new messages. No missed calls. At 7:20, I looked up every time the doors swung open. At 7:25, I started to feel like an idiot. Then I saw him, a man in a dark suit, walking with purpose toward my table. His posture was rigid, his expression unreadable. But it wasn't his face that caught my attention. It was the manila envelope clutched in his hand. I had seen too many of these in my lifetime, and I knew exactly what was about to happen. "Michael Carter?" he asked as he reached my table. I stared at him for a long second before nodding. "Yes. I need to see some ID." I exhaled through my nose, keeping my expression neutral as I pulled my wallet from my pocket and flipped it open to my driver's license. The man gave it a quick glance, then handed me the envelope. "You've been served, sir." Then, as quickly as he had arrived, he turned and walked away. I stared at the envelope in my hands, my pulse pounding in my ears. The words on the front read petition for dissolution of marriage. I felt my stomach drop. This had to be a mistake. It had to be. My hands moved on their own, peeling back the flap, pulling out the thick stack of legal documents inside. And then I saw it. Grounds for divorce, adultery. The air seemed to leave my lungs all at once. Adultery? I clenched my jaw, anger and confusion twisting inside me. This wasn't just a lie. It was a calculated attack. I reached for my phone and typed out a single message to Lena. "WEF." Before I could press send, a voice interrupted me. "Mr. Carter." I looked up. A blonde woman in a sharp business suit stood at the edge of my table. She looked polished, professional, but there was something in her eyes I didn't trust. "And you are?" I asked, my tone sharp. She extended a hand. "Alison Graves. I'm representing your wife." I stared at her outstretched hand, then slowly leaned back in my chair, letting my fingers tighten around the papers in front of me. "Of course you are." She lowered her hand, her lips pressing into a small, knowing smile. "May I sit?" I gestured to the seat across from me. "It's a free country. Help yourself." She pulled out the chair and sat, smoothing out her skirt, as if we were discussing a business deal rather than the collapse of my life. The waitress approached, mistaking Allison for my dinner date. "Are you two ready to order?" I didn't look away from Allison as I spoke. "No," I said. "She won't be staying long." The waitress hesitated before nodding and walking away. "My client has requested that you sign the divorce papers tonight," Allison said, folding her hands neatly in front of her. "I've been asked to collect them once you do." I let out a slow, bitter laugh. "Your client?" I echoed. "You mean my wife, the woman I just bought flowers for, the woman who didn't even have the decency to show up and tell me to my face. She didn't think it was necessary." "No," I said, my voice like steel. "What's unnecessary is this bullshit accusation of adultery." Allison didn't even blink. "We have evidence." My fingers curled into a fist. "Bullshit," I hissed. "There is no evidence because I never cheated. And if you or Lena think I'm just going to roll over and let you take everything I've worked for, my house, my assets, you've lost your damn mind." For the first time, a flicker of irritation passed across Allison's face. "I suggest you think carefully before making this difficult for yourself, Mr. Carter." I narrowed my eyes. "Oh, trust me, Ms. Graves." I stood, towering over her as I grabbed the divorce papers and shoved them back into the envelope. "You and Lena just started a war." I leaned down, my voice low and dangerous. "And I don't lose." I turned and walked out, leaving the flowers behind. I stormed out of Luigi's, my pulse pounding in my ears, my fists clenched so tightly around the divorce papers that the edges crumpled beneath my grip. The bouquet of roses I had bought for Lena, left abandoned on the table. It was fitting, really, a symbol of something that was once beautiful, now discarded like a meaningless trinket. The cold night air hit my face, but did nothing to cool the fire burning in my chest. I felt rage, pure, unfiltered rage, but beneath that there was something worse. Betrayal, confusion, doubt. None of this made sense. I yanked open the car door and slid into the driver's seat, tossing the envelope onto the passenger side. Adultery? They had evidence? Bullshit. My mind raced as I started the engine, the low rumble vibrating through my fingertips. There was only one place I needed to be right now. Home. I drove in silence, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Streetlights flashed past in a blur, each one illuminating the storm brewing in my thoughts. Lena had blindsided me with divorce papers. That much was clear. But what wasn't clear, what gnawed at the edges of my sanity, was why. Why now? Why like this? If she wanted out, fine. People grow apart, marriages fail. But this? Framing me? Accusing me of something I never did? This wasn't just a breakup. This was war. I pulled into the driveway at 8:05 p.m., cutting the engine and scanning the house. Lena's car was gone. Good. I stepped out, grabbing my walking cane from the passenger seat. A permanent reminder of my past life, my time as a federal agent, before a bullet shattered my femur and sent me limping into early retirement. The house loomed before me, dark and quiet, but something felt off. I approached the front door and hesitated for a split second before reaching into my glove compartment and pulling out my 9mm pistol. I checked the chamber, securing it on my belt beneath my coat. I wasn't expecting trouble, but after what I had just learned, I wasn't taking any chances. I unlocked the door, pushing it open just enough to reach inside and disable the security alarm. The familiar beep 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 of the system echoed in the stillness, and I quickly entered the code before stepping fully inside. The air inside the house was thick, as if it were holding its breath, waiting. I closed the door behind me, then reached for the light switch. The living room flickered to life in a wash of yellow glow, casting long shadows against the walls. I scanned the space, my instincts on high alert. Something wasn't right. Then I saw it. On the kitchen counter, tucked between the coffee maker and the fruit bowl, was a neatly folded stack of clothes. Next to it, a sleeping bag. My stomach tightened. Lena had packed my things. She had actually gone through my belongings, chosen what she thought I'd need, and set them out for me like I was some unwanted guest in my own damn house. I inhaled deeply, forcing the anger down. Not yet. My cane tapped softly against the hardwood floor as I moved through the house, taking everything in. Nothing seemed disturbed. No signs of forced entry. No missing valuables. Then I spotted something even more unsettling. My home office door was locked. I never locked that door. Ever. A slow, cold realization crept to my spine. Someone had been in there. Someone had tried to access my files. I moved quickly, entering my code and stepping inside, my eyes immediately scanning for anything out of place. My desk was the same, my chair slightly pulled out, but something felt wrong. I turned on the computer and quickly checked the security logs. That's when I found it. At 7:42 p.m., while I was still at Luigi's, the security system had registered a failed login attempt on my desktop. Someone had tried to access my files, but they hadn't gotten past my second-layer encryption. Lena? No, she never came in here. Then who? I clenched my jaw and activated the hidden surveillance system, a precaution I had installed years ago during my time at the task force. I pulled up the security feed from earlier that evening and fast-forwarded through the timeline. Then I saw them. Lena, Alison Graves, and another man. He was tall, well-dressed, and way too comfortable in my home. I recognized him instantly. Ryan Wells, a junior partner at Lena's law firm. And, judging by the way he placed his hand on her lower back as they walked in together, he was also her lover. My pulse pounded in my ears as I turned up the volume. Lena was pacing in the living room, while Allison sat calmly on the couch. Ryan stood near the staircase, arms crossed, watching. Did he sign? Lena asked. No, Allison replied. I didn't expect him to. He has 30 days to respond. But he's pissed. Good, Ryan said. That'll make him careless. Careless? I leaned forward, watching as Allison pulled something from her purse and handed it to Ryan. He held it up, a USB drive. My blood ran cold. This is everything? Ryan asked. Allison nodded. Everything we need to ruin him. I felt nauseous. They had planned this. The false adultery claims, the bank account freezes, even a fabricated digital trail to frame me. They wanted to destroy me, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly as I felt a grim smile creep across my lips. This wasn't just some bitter divorce. This was a setup, a conspiracy, and I was about to turn their game against them. I sat in my chair, the glow of the security footage flickering across my face, my fingers gripping the armrests like a vice. Lena, my wife, Ryan, her lover, Allison, their accomplice. They weren't just divorcing me, they were destroying me. I played the footage again, forcing myself to watch the scene unfold a second time. Ryan holding the USB drive, smirking like he had already won. Allison's calm, calculated demeanor as she assured them I'd be taken care of. And Lena? She stood there, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line, listening to them talk about ruining the man who had loved her for years. My jaw clenched. I would not let this stand. I reached for my phone and did the first thing that came naturally to me. I called a contact. It rang 3 times before a familiar gruff voice answered. Carter. Terry, I need you on something. Terry Torres, head of investigative services at Iverson Security, a man with a long memory and even longer reach. What's the problem? He asked, his tone shifting instantly. I inhaled deeply, my pulse steady now, my anger cooling into precision. I need a deep dive on Ryan Wells and Allison Graves. Dig into every case they've touched in the last 10 years. Find out if they've pulled this stunt before. There was a brief pause. Then, that's serious? Worse. I'll get my best people on it. One more thing, I added. I want you to find out exactly how much money Lena has hidden away. Every account, every transfer. Terry let out a low whistle. Damn, you're playing for keeps. They started this war, I said. I'm just making sure they lose. I hung up and sat back, my mind already working 3 steps ahead. Lena had been careful, but not careful enough. She thought she could do this to me and walk away unscathed. She was wrong. I grabbed my car keys and headed out. It was nearly 11 p.m. when I arrived at the Lantern, a small, no-frills bar just outside of downtown. The kind of place where nobody asked questions as long as you paid your tab and kept your problems to yourself. I stepped inside, scanning the room, and then I saw him. Sitting in a booth near the back, nursing a glass of whiskey, was the one man who might have some answers. Alvin Morrison, Samantha's first husband, the man who had been in my position before. I walked over, my cane tapping against the worn wooden floors, and slid into the booth across from him. Alvin looked up, his eyes narrowing. You must be Carter, and you must be Morrison. He took a slow sip of his drink, then set it down. So she got you too. I exhaled sharply. Looks that way. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. We both knew what it was like to be on the receiving end of Lena's betrayal. Finally, I pulled a small stack of $100 bills from my pocket and set it on the table. Alvin eyed the cash, but didn't move. I'm not here to waste your time, I said. I just need the truth. He let out a bitter chuckle. The truth. He picked up his glass, swirling the amber liquid inside. The truth is, she's been doing this for years. And I was just her first experiment. My fingers tightened around my cane. Tell me everything. Alvin leaned forward, his voice low and steady. He told me how he and Lena had met in college, fallen in love, gotten married. How she had introduced him to her father, Jacob Green, who never fully approved but had tolerated him. And then, 5 years into the marriage, it all fell apart. One day, I come home, and there's a woman sitting at my kitchen table, he said. A lawyer. She handed me an envelope, just like the one you got tonight. Accusations of adultery? I asked. Alvin nodded. With evidence. Photos. Videos. None of it was real, of course. But it didn't matter. She had already frozen our accounts, cut off my access to everything. Then she filed a restraining order, said I was dangerous. I felt a cold fury creep up my spine. And you lost everything, I murmured. Alvin laughed bitterly. I lost more than that. I lost my job, my reputation. Hell, I even got arrested for violating the restraining order, one that didn't even exist. I stared at him, my mind racing. This wasn't just a divorce scheme. This was a pattern, a perfectly orchestrated cycle of lies, manipulation, and destruction. And now, it was my turn. I sat back, exhaling slowly. I'm going to stop her, I said, and I'm going to make sure she never does this to anyone else again. Alvin studied me for a long moment, then gave a slow, grim nod. Good. I stood up, grabbing the stack of bills from the table and tucking it back in my pocket. Alvin frowned. What's that about? I met his gaze. Keep it. I'll pay you back another way. He watched as I turned and walked away, determined now more than ever. Lena had played this game before, but this time, she was up against the wrong man. I left the bar with one goal in mind, to shatter the plan Lena and her co-conspirators had set in motion. They thought they had cornered me, that I was some helpless pawn in their little game. They were wrong. I drove back to my hotel, my mind calculating every possible move. I needed proof, not just of the conspiracy against me, but of every fraudulent divorce, every extortion attempt, every dollar stolen. Alvin had confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't just about me. Lena and Allison had done this before. And now, it was time to expose them. I pulled into the parking lot of the hotel and parked near the entrance, scanning the area before stepping out. I was being watched. I had no doubt about that. But they weren't going to catch me slipping. I stepped into my room, locked the door behind me, and pulled out my phone. First, I checked my home surveillance feed. Lena and Ryan were inside my house. Again, I clenched my jaw, watching as they laughed in my living room, sipping wine from my glasses, sitting on my couch like they owned the place. He's probably losing his mind right now, Ryan chuckled, swirling his drink. You really did a number on him, babe. Babe. I exhaled sharply, forcing myself to remain calm. Lena smirked, setting her glass down. It's almost too easy. He still doesn't know what's coming next. I narrow my eyes. Oh, but I do. I rewound the footage to earlier in the night, fast-forwarding through their little date night in my home, until I saw what I was looking for, Ryan plugging in a USB drive into my laptop. There it was, the final piece of the puzzle. I knew exactly what I had to do. I dialed Terry's number. He picked up after the first ring. Talk to me. They planted something on my laptop. I said, a USB drive. I need you to get over there, secure my system, and retrieve whatever they uploaded. I need to know exactly what they tried to frame me for. There was a brief pause before Terry responded. You got it. I'll send one of my tech guys over within the hour. Make sure he's fast, I added. I have a feeling I won't be the only one interested in my computer tonight. I hung up and immediately made my next call to Alice Hawkins, my lawyer. She answered on the second ring. Mike, what's going on? I have solid evidence that Lena and Ryan planted fake data on my laptop. I told her, keeping my voice measured. I need an emergency injunction to protect my assets before they try to pull another move. Alice exhaled sharply. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Send me everything you have. I'll file first thing in the morning. Make sure you hit them hard, Alice. No mercy. She didn't hesitate. You have my word. I ended the call and took a deep breath, feeling the tension in my shoulders. Things were finally shifting in my favor, but I wasn't done yet. There was one more call to make. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name, Jacob Green, Lena's father. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I knew one thing. He needed to hear the truth. The line rang twice before he picked up. Mike. His voice was calm, but guarded. Pop, I said, using the nickname he had once allowed me. I need to talk to you, and I need you to listen. There was a pause. Then go on. Your daughter has done this before, I said, getting straight to the point. She framed her first husband, stole everything from him, and now she's trying to do the same to me. I have proof, and I need to know, are you in on this, or are you just another pawn in her game? Silence, then a slow exhale. Son of a bitch. I waited. Jacob's voice was low, angry. She told me she had prenup with you. Said she had a solid case. I didn't question it. Damn it. You should have. He was silent again, And then, I want to see that proof. You'll have it by tomorrow morning, I said. And when you see it, you're going to have to decide which side you're on. Jacob sighed. I always knew she had a ruthless streak, but I never thought. His voice trailed off. I ended the call. Another piece had fallen into place. I sat back, rubbing a hand down my face. My next moves were set in stone. Terry's team would extract the planted data and prove my innocence before Lena's team could act. Alice would file the emergency motion and put them on the defensive. Jacob would see the truth. And if there was one person in Lena's life she feared disappointing, it was her father. And then, when the arraignment came the next morning, I'd be ready. Lena had fired the first shot. But now, it was my turn. Morning came faster than I expected. I barely slept, but I didn't need rest. I needed results. By 7 a.m., I had everything lined up. Terry's forensics team had retrieved the planted files from my laptop. Just as I suspected, Ryan and Allison had uploaded illicit materials, hoping to frame me for a crime that would ruin my career and reputation forever. Too bad for them. Terry's guy was good, and now I had something even more powerful than revenge, evidence. I pulled on a sharp, dark suit, adjusted my tie, and headed for the courthouse. By 9:45 a.m., I was seated in the courtroom, waiting for the 3 conspirators to be brought in. The atmosphere was heavy, the kind of tension you could cut with a knife. I spotted Alice Hawkins, my lawyer, seated next to the district attorney, whispering in hushed tones. The DA was an older man, but his face was set in a serious, almost predatory expression. He was ready for blood. The double doors swung open. A line of orange jumpsuits shuffled inside, wrists cuffed together. Lena, Ryan, Allison. They looked tired, disheveled, and rattled. It was clear none of them had gotten much sleep in county jail. Lena's eyes met mine for a brief second. There was no remorse, no regret, just pure calculation. But I wasn't here to play her game. I leaned back, watching as Judge Wilfred Stone took his seat. He was an old-school, no-nonsense judge, the kind who had no patience for theatrics. "Bring in the accused," he ordered. The bailiff led them forward, and the courtroom fell silent. The DA stood first. "Your Honor, the state is charging the defendants with conspiracy to commit fraud, extortion, and, most damningly, conspiracy to commit murder." Murmurs erupted across the courtroom. Lena's expression didn't change. But Allison, she shifted uneasily. And Ryan? He looked ready to pass out. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Serious charges," he muttered. "Do you have supporting evidence?" "We do, Your Honor," the DA said, motioning toward Alice. "My colleague has submitted video evidence captured from the defendant's own home, where they openly discuss their intent to set up and eliminate Mr. Carter Jacobs." The judge arched a brow. "I'd like to see this footage." Alice handed over a USB drive. The bailiff plugged it into the courtroom screen, and the damning video began to play. There they were, Lena, Ryan, and Allison, sitting in my house, talking openly about framing me, stealing my assets, and if all else failed, ensuring I had an accident. The courtroom watched in silence. I turned my head slightly, watching Lena's reaction. For the first time, I saw something crack beneath her perfectly composed mask. Fear. The moment the video ended, the DA didn't hesitate. "The state requests that bail be denied for all 3 defendants, Your Honor. Given the nature of the charges, they're a flight risk." Ryan twitched beside Lena, panic setting in. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding." "Quiet," Judge Stone barked, silencing him immediately. Then, he turned to the defense attorney. A high-priced woman Lena must have called in last minute. "Counsel, do your clients have anything to say?" The lawyer cleared her throat. "Your Honor, we would argue that these were simply exaggerated conversations, taken out of context. My clients had no intention of following through on any actions discussed in that footage." "Really?" The judge interrupted, unimpressed. "Because last I checked, conspiring to commit a crime is still a crime, whether they followed through or not." The defense attorney swallowed hard. The judge leaned back in his chair, staring at the 3 accused. "I've heard enough." He picked up his gavel. "Bail is denied." Bang! The sound echoed through the courtroom. Lena flinched. Allison closed her eyes, realization finally hitting her. Ryan? He looked like he was about to throw up. The bailiffs stepped forward, grabbing each of them by the arm. You can't do this. Lena snapped. This is ridiculous. I stood up, and as they dragged her past me, I leaned in, just enough for her to hear me. You should have chosen someone else to screw over, Lena. You picked the wrong man. Her face contorted with fury. This isn't over, Carter. I gave her a cold smile. Yes, it is. She didn't get another word in before she was hauled away. As soon as court adjourned, Alice approached me. Well, that went about as well as it could, she said. Lena will try to fight this, but with the charges they're facing, she's looking at serious time. And if the DA digs deeper into Allison's past cases, that woman is finished. I nodded, exhaling slowly. It's not over yet, I said. There's still the missing money, the fraudulent accounts, the people they've scammed. Alice tapped her folder. Already working on it. Terry's team is compiling financial records, and I have a few people looking into past victims. This could turn into something much bigger. I rubbed my jaw, feeling the weight of it all settling in. I want them all to pay, Alice. She studied me for a moment before nodding. They will, Carter. They will. As I walked out of the courtroom, I knew one thing for certain. Lena had underestimated me, and now she was paying the price. I stepped out of the courthouse into the cold morning air, inhaling deeply. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot, but Lena, Ryan, and Allison were exactly where they belonged. The weight on my chest had lessened, but there was still unfinished business. The money, the fraud, the other victims. I wasn't going to stop until every last one of them was held accountable. As I walked toward my car, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered, already on edge. Carter Jacobs. Silence. Then a voice I recognized instantly. Carter, it's me. Lena. I stopped dead in my tracks. My grip on the phone tightened. What the hell do you want? I asked, my voice cold. A slow exhale. I just wanted to talk. I laughed bitterly. Now you want to talk? After trying to frame me, steal from me, and have me killed? I made a mistake. Her voice was steady, but there was a hint of something underneath, fear. Good. A mistake. I repeated, my anger bubbling just beneath the surface. That's what you call it. Another silence. Then, they're going to flip on me, Carter. Ryan. Allison. They'll do anything to save their own asses. But I know things. I can help you. I frowned, processing her words. You're not helping me, Lena. You're just trying to help yourself. She let out a hollow chuckle. You were always smart. But think about it. Allison has been doing this for years. Ryan, too. You really think they're going down without dragging as many people with them as possible? I clenched my jaw. She had a point. What are you offering? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'll give you everything. Bank records, past victims, every shady deal Allison ever pulled. But I want something in return. Of course. Let me guess. You want me to get you out of this? I want a deal, she said, voice tight. I don't belong in prison, Carter. But if I go down, I'm taking them with me. You can use me to destroy Allison and Ryan. I exhaled, pinching the bridge of my nose. She was desperate, cornered, and now she was trying to use me as her lifeline. I thought about it. Allison was the real mastermind behind these fraudulent divorces. If Lena had the proof to put her away for good, it was tempting, but was she worth saving? I'll think about it, I said. But don't expect mercy from me, Lena. She let out a bitter sigh. I never did. And with that, I ended the call. I drove straight to Terry's office. He was already waiting for me, papers spread across his desk, his face serious. We got a problem, he said the moment I walked in. What now? He slid a folder toward me. I had my guys go deeper into the financials. Turns out, Allison's fraud runs deeper than we thought. She's funneled millions into offshore accounts. I flipped through the documents, my stomach twisting. Multiple accounts, all under fake identities. And get this, Terry continued. Some of that money, it was stolen from other guys just like you. The same scam, fake evidence, fabricated affairs, manipulated court rulings. It's been happening for years. I clenched my fists. And Lena? I asked. Terry nodded. She was a part of it, but she wasn't the ringleader. If she's willing to spill everything, we could take Allison down for good. I exhaled sharply, thinking about her call. If Lena was telling the truth, then Allison was more dangerous than we thought. She wasn't just playing dirty in divorces. She was running an empire built on destruction. We need to act fast, I said. Allison isn't going to sit back and let this unfold. She has money, connections. She'll find a way out if we don't pin her down now. Terry leaned back in his chair. Then we use Lena. We make her talk. I nodded. It was time to strike the final blow. Alice arranged the meeting with the DA later that day. Lena was brought into a private interrogation room, handcuffed, looking far less confident than she had the day before. She sat down, her eyes scanning me as I took a seat across from her. "Well," she asked. Alice cleared her throat. "You provide full cooperation, bank records, past victims, everything you know about Allison and her operations. In return, the DA will consider reducing your sentence." Lena smirked. "Not good enough." I leaned forward. "It's the only offer you're getting, Lena. Take it or rot in prison." For the first time, her confidence cracked. She looked at the DA, then back at me. "Finally, fine. But when this is over, I never want to see you again." I chuckled. "Trust me, Lena. That makes two of us." Alice nodded toward the DA. "We'll finalize the paperwork. But once she starts talking, there's no turning back." Lena's jaw tightened. She knew that once she flipped on Allison, she'd have no way out. But that wasn't my problem. All I cared about was justice. That night, I sat in my car outside the courthouse, staring at the city lights. Lena's cooperation was going to bring everything crashing down. Allison, Ryan, the fraud, the money. They thought they were untouchable. They thought I'd just lay down and accept my fate. They were wrong. I had survived their lies. Now it was time for them to face the consequences.